There are secrets out there, guys, performance marketing secrets, and knowing just one or two of them can absolutely light up your funnels. Let's go. This is the Revenue Driven CMO. I'm your host, Chris Mechanic. Join me as I uncover the secrets of the world's most elite CMOs and marketing leaders. The Revenue Driven CMO is sponsored by Web Mechanics, the AI-driven performance agency that makes you smarter. Hey, everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Revenue Driven CMO. I'm your man, Chris Mechanic, and we have an amazing show in store for you today. I'm really excited to be interviewing this guest. She is the type of guest that we really love. Over the last 15 years, she's just multifaceted. Like, she has been in product, in go-to-market, pretty much like every core element of marketing. She has been deep in the mud, so to speak. And those are the types of guests that we really love. She's a partner at Stage 2 Capital. Previously, she was at Five9, which is the cloud contact center company. She did over 10 years at HP at Hewlett Packard. And currently, she's CMO of Udemy, which is an awesome company, recently public. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Miss Genefa Murphy. It's awesome to have you, Genefa.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I know that this is going to be an awesome episode. And you know how we roll. We like to lead with the value. So why don't you let everybody know just right off the bat, like, what is one of your biggest or best kept secrets to the success that you've been able to produce in your marketing career?
Yeah, I don't know. Some people might think it's common sense, but I think there are two things that come to mind. One, operate without fear. And second, remember that sales and marketing are not in competition with one another. You have to be, and you should be, and you must be united against the same goal. So those are my two. Operate without fear and make sure that sales and marketing, it's a partnership. They are not your competition.
I love it. Okay, great. So I think that there's a lot to unpack in both of those, but let's start with the first one, the operate without fear. I know, I think fear is natural. I guess you might call it fear, you might call it self-doubt, you might call it, imposter syndrome. What do you mean by that exactly? Like what's an example where fear might get in the way?
So hey, I'll make it personal. So I have recently joined Udemy as the first chief marketing officer. So prior to this, they had wonderful heads of marketing, but never a chief marketing officer who operated across both the direct to consumer and the Udemy business side of the house. And so for me, as I'm coming in, there's a great team with an immense amount of talent. But as a leader coming into any new role, there's always that fear of, well, I'm going to have to put change in place. People don't like change. And often change can sometimes lead to more instability when the one thing you're trying to do is create stability for your team.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a great example. I have to not fear the repercussions. I need to be conscious of them. I need to be aware of them. I need to plan for them. But at the same time, I've been brought in to do a job, and I believe that the team can execute it. And so it's my job to not operate from a place of fear, but operate from a place of creating an environment so we can all collectively, as a single team, create that energy and create that momentum to achieve our collective goal as a marketing organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that story, and I'm curious, like, at what point did this particular principle of operating without fear become part of your MO? Like, in your early career, for instance, were you operating with a lot of fear, and then one day you just put your hand down and said, damn it, I'm not going to operate with fear anymore?
Yeah. So I think, it's natural, depending on where you are in your career trajectory, if you will, and also like sort of, I guess, how many wars you've been through. So some people, staying for a long period of time at a single company, people look at that and they think it's a negative thing. But for example, me staying at HP for over 10 years was a great learning experience. And so I would definitely say earlier in my career, I maybe did operate from a place of fear because I was like, well, am I good enough to do this job? I've still got a lot of learning to do. Am I okay to be speaking up right now? And am I okay to be, leading the charge on this activity? But I think because of all the experiences I've had, I've ran global teams, large global teams for multi-billion-dollar companies. And I just sort of took a step back, and it was actually a former CEO of mine who was like, hey, Genefa, you know what? What's your narrative? Learn your narrative, know your narrative, take a step back to think about all the things that you've done. And at that point, when he asked me that question, I was like, damn, I've actually done a lot of stuff. I can always learn. I can always be better. There's always new technology, new processes, new ideas. But man, yeah, I have. I've been through some wars. I've taken on some meaty marketing and go-to-market challenges, and I've learned from it. And I've, with my team, delivered some pretty amazing things. So I think that sort of just, made me think, especially I would say probably, I don't know, maybe even 5 or 6 years ago when I was taking on, probably my second CMO role was just, don't operate from a place of fear. Have the confidence to know what you can do and what you can't do and be okay with it.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. I think it's almost like the more talented somebody is, I think probably the more fear that they may have naturally.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, do you have any, and certainly, I mean, I still feel fear, like,
Yeah.
and, it manifests sometimes in different forms. Like it's usually more so in the form of like a nagging kind of anxiety or, almost like a subconscious doubt. Um,
Mhm.
I'm curious, do you have any techniques for folks? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, honestly, I think that advice that I got is to take that moment to pause and say, hang on, if I was going to interview for another job, or if I just needed to tell someone what's my narrative, and just taking a moment simply to write down all of the things, right? All of the things that you've done. Because sometimes you get so caught up in the day to day and you do these amazing projects, especially in marketing, because it's just ongoing all the time. Sometimes you almost take them for granted. You forget about them. So just taking that moment to say, actually, you know what? Seems stupid, but I'm just going to write down like all of the cool things I've worked on and that I've been a part of, and then maybe some of the mistakes, but the learnings that have happened along that time. That for me, it just helped solidify it so much because I could reflect back on that and be like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good list, and then it also helped me identify what were some of the gaps and areas that maybe I still needed to develop in my career and in my next opportunity that I was taking on.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good exercise actually, and it reminds me. So I'm big into kind of like the power of thought, like mind
Hmm.
power. And the majority of people, I think, operate somewhat on autopilot,
Yep.
where they're just taking in the stimuli around them. But I try for a few minutes each day to like intentionally feed certain stimuli into my mind. And I think of it as a highlight reel. So,
Hmm.
and it's not even always work related. Like part of my highlight reel when I was a kid, I was a really good swimmer. Like
Hmm.
I used to just smoke everybody when I was like 8 years old. Like I could just swim the 25-yard freestyle or 25-meter race. Like I would just smoke everybody. I was like a local hero in the town almost. But like
Perfect.
that's part of my highlight reel. So I
Yep.
do that just kind of like as part of my morning meditation routine, but
Hmm.
also before a big call or a big meeting or something that would tend to induce those feelings of anxiety. I just play that highlight reel back in my mind. Is that sort of the same with what you mean by narrative in a way?
Yeah, exactly. It's like writing your own movie trailer.
Yeah.
What would it be like? What's your story? That can excite people. And, it has that notion of, okay, at this moment, you're the hero of the story. And who was the enemy? Who was the protagonist, right? So yeah, that notion of having your narrative, having the different points in time. But your point about just also building your highlight reel as well, I think it is really important. You can read a lot about the power of things like power of daydream, the power of art and the brain, and creating, new connections, and firing off, new different thought processes, etc. So I think there's a lot of power in taking that time to just think, right?
Yeah.
Stop and just think about it. Like you said, if you've got a big presentation to put together, sometimes it's so easy to just dive in and be like, right, yeah, here you go. I'm going to do my business case, and here's the information, and here's the slides. And it's like, hang on, just take a step back and just noodle on it. I say that a lot. I'm like, let's just noodle on it. Let's just have a little think about it, right? At the most probably inopportune times. But I think that power is really, really, really helpful.
Yeah. So I think that's a lovely takeaway just for anybody listening. If you don't have that highlight reel, or if you haven't taken the time to noodle on it or put your narrative together, I think that can be a really effective tool in combating, the natural sense of whatever they call it, imposter syndrome, or,
Yeah.
That nagging anxiety that you may not be enough, because you are. You wouldn't be where you are if you weren't enough.
That's it. And everyone brings something different to the table. I think that's the other thing as well, is just appreciating that, I'm a big believer in diversity of all different types, diversity of individuals, diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, and how you collaborate and create that environment. And I think, just accepting that it's okay. I can be a quite high energy person. And sometimes, people in my team, former teams, that they've said to me, well, am I going to be okay on your team? Because I'm not that type of person. I'm not a high energy person. I'm like, yes, you think I need to be surrounded by people like me all of the time? No. There are, and sometimes I don't want to be the high energy person, and it's great to have somebody else who will, be that high energy person. So I think really just owning and accepting who you are, and realizing that everybody can contribute in different ways, is a really, really powerful thing.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Cool. So let's talk about your second secret, that sales and marketing are not in competition. We hear that a lot. Usually we hear it in the way of like the power of sales and marketing alignment. How come you frame it in the way of like, hey, we're not in competition?
Because sometimes, especially when things aren't going well, when you don't have the pipeline numbers, when you don't have the leads, or you do have the leads, but you don't have the leads quality, it's very easy still to sort of get into that fear mode and get into that finger pointing mode. And at the end of the day, again, everybody has a part to play. And also, the hard thing about marketing is a lot of people think they can do marketing, especially sales. And I love the sales team completely. They do come up with some of the greatest ideas, and it's wonderful to be able to get that real input, because they're meeting with customers every single day, and they hear that and they see that. But sometimes, it can make marketers feel like, well, are they trying to do my job? Right. Well, that's my job. That's my job to build that deck. That's my job to build that asset. That's my job to put on that event, to think about the pipeline. Well, yeah, it is. It's both of our jobs. At the end of the day, we've both got a single goal. The goal is build the pipeline, build the share of voice, get the brand awareness, get the revenue, get the momentum, build the community for the company that you are working for. And I think, again, going back to when does this often manifest itself? It's great when things are going awesome, but then the second, that pipeline starts dipping, or the revenue starts dipping, or there's something not going right, then it can sometimes feel like a competition. I think then it's even more important to be double down and be like, how can we work together? How can we help one another? How can we take each other's ideas and, be able to sort of work them together. And I think, you mentioned my background in the beginning. That's always one of my biggest pieces of advice for marketers is go and do a job outside of marketing. Go
Hmm.
work in support, go work in customer success, go work in sales, go work in partners, because then you'll have a different perspective and you'll have an appreciation of where the other person is coming from. Because believe you me, like sales is hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It is hard. And I think sometimes people underestimate that. Um, and they see the sort of the smiley happy side of the salesperson and someone who's great at talking and great at sort of negotiating and building those relationships, but that it's a lot of hard work, and I don't know if teams always appreciate that. And then on the same time, marketing is not all pretty pictures and pipeline, right? There's a lot of data, there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of connecting the dots, a lot of processes. So I think that appreciation for the other side is a key element.
Yeah. So then it sounds like at Udemy and at the other orgs that you've had relatively good experiences. What advice would you give to marketers who may have that sales team that feels competitive to them? You mentioned like go work in that job. I think that's a really good one.
Yeah, go work in that job, go do that job, right? Even if you don't do it full time, right? Go do a ride along.
Yeah.
Go to a salesperson with a meeting. Go listen in to a business development rep doing a call. Go sit
Yeah.
on a partner meeting. Just hear, and also as well, just from a marketing point of view, messaging. A couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago now, I think, my team did this awesome pop up as part of Dreamforce. It was an ice cream pop up. So it was, come for the ice cream and stay for the AI skills and the skills that you can learn on Udemy. And
Hmm.
I think it was really cool because they were out there and they were having to engage prospects as they were, walking along the street to get to the entrance to Dreamforce. That's hard to do, right?
Yeah.
To engage someone, get a conversation. Do you have a need? Is this something that's relevant for you? And so I think it was really cool to see them engaging and doing that and sort of being a part of it, because I think again it helps them understand, well, is the message that I'm saying right now, is it relevant? And also as well, how does it play out in real life? Because sometimes you write these discovery questions and playbooks, and then it's like, yeah, that's not quite how it works when you actually speak to a prospect.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Talk about fear. It's like repping that booth and like trying to stop somebody like as they're walking
Mhm.
uh in a big crowd, you're just like setting yourself up for potential rejection, public rejection. There's
Exactly, exactly. It's like it's really, it's really hard. And
yeah,
and I was just so proud that the team got out there. Well, first of all, they came up with this pop-up experience in probably like 2 weeks. They
yeah,
came up with some great taglines, ice creams on the house, skills are on Udemy. But then they were out there in the field engaging with prospects and customers and telling our story. And I thought that was just so cool.
that is really cool. That's really cool. So, let's talk about Udemy a little bit. I know that
Mhm.
you're fairly new there, just a few
Yeah.
months into the role. I'm curious what attracted you there in the first place. Like, how did you get involved with them?
Yeah, so I think it's a few different reasons. First of all, just the mission of Udemy, right? The
Yeah,
mission of Udemy is to improve and transform lives through learning.
yeah,
That's a pretty cool mission. And it applies
absolutely.
to individuals and it applies to businesses and organizations. And then that's the other thing, right? Is the fact that you don't often find that many companies that have a successful direct to consumer and B2B side of the house,
Hmm.
where as a marketer, you can do both. And I get to do both. And that's really exciting because I get to um, borrow and learn, and my team get to borrow and learn what works for D2C and what works for B2B. And can we cross over, or are there places where, they should be different? And so I think first, it's just the pure mission of Udemy to improve and transform lives through learning and giving people access to learning, giving people access to skills. We talk a lot about the transformation to a skills-based economy. That's real. Not everybody can get access to higher ed.
Right.
But, does that mean that they shouldn't still be able to learn skills and get qualifications and get certified and be able to present that to a potential employer? Not at all. And so
Yeah.
I just think it's an amazing mission. And we get the opportunity to do that for individuals. And we get to do that for large organizations and small organizations alike. And that's a pretty cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I'm really passionate about too, because I've been an avid reader for pretty much as long as I can remember, and I learned very little in formal schooling. Like, I studied business at a good university, and I learned a little bit, but I remember thinking upon graduation, I was okay, so I'm a business graduate. Like, how do I start a business? They don't
Yeah.
actually show you how to start a business, like, the articles of incorporation and operating agreement and things. So, I took to Google and I figured that out. But then somewhere along the way, I'd read the biography of Andrew Carnegie.
Mhm.
Um, and it was a great read. But one of the things that stuck with me was that in those days, uh, like like information was not so readily available as it is today. In fact, to get access to a library that had, the magazines and other books as well was expensive. Like it was
Mhm.
only really available or accessible to the upper middle class or upper, kind of more affluent people.
Mhm.
And so I've always felt fortunate personally that just like, oh my goodness, like here right at a few keystrokes, like we can get access to the best thinking from some of the best people for free, pretty much. But
Yeah.
so
And
that
that's exactly the Udemy story, right? That's exactly how our founder, came about, right? It was because he was in Turkey. He wanted to get access to information. He wanted to get access to learning. Couldn't necessarily do that, and then he came over to the US and started Udemy and made that accessible, right? Because it was at the age of the internet and being able to give people access to that. And we've sort of continued that legacy, right, if you will, continue that legacy of giving people all over the world access to the relevant skills and learning opportunities that they're going to need for themselves personally or professionally. And doing it in an affordable and a scalable way.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm on the site right now. You've got
Hmm.
these chat GPT courses, $15. You can learn chat GPT, right?
Yep.
And then you would probably be better educated after this 3-hour course for $15 than like the majority of job applicants out there.
Yeah.
15 bucks.
Yeah, and it's listen, it's an and story, right? I mean, there is no doubt that getting higher ed, right, that can get you in the door, that gives you a certain set of skills, but it's about that ongoing learning as well, right? You can't always, some people first of all can't even afford, right, to go to college or university,
Yeah.
and then when you're applying it, we're very big on practical skills, right? What are the practical skills that are going to help you right now? Right, whether it's learning a hobby or whether it's your professional skills. So, ChatGPT, Python, Excel, data science, and the awesome thing, which is just so cool. I think I mean, Udemy is a marketplace, and it's a marketplace from a content creation perspective, and it's a marketplace from the learner perspective. And so, what do I mean by that? We've got over 70,000 instructors, and anybody can be an instructor. Um, Now, some people are like, oh, well, that means that, maybe am I getting the right quality content? Well, how does the marketplace work? Your content, your course will keep being presented if people are purchasing it, if people are liking it, if people are engaging with it. That's the beauty of it because you never know when some of the best teachers, some of the best instructors, the best content creators, where they're going to come from. They might not always come from some of those traditional avenues that publishers and academics sort of look at. They may come from the most unusual place. And we give that ability for people to come and teach, and then also for the 64 million learners to come and learn in a way that's personal to them. So you might like to learn a skill in one way. I like to learn in a different way. And we have that availability to be able to do that. And you'll see, like some of the courses, they've got 2, 3, 400,000 reviews. So this is, these are active learners engaging and participating, and our content creators, our instructors, are just so engaged, and it really means a lot, and it makes a difference.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just doing some mental math. Jose Portilla made
Mhm,
the complete Python boot camp from zero to
mhm.
hero. $30 a shot, almost 500,000 reviews,
Yep.
which means there was probably 10 times as many, actual purchases. Um, that's like, that's a lot. That's a good chunk of
Yeah.
change for
Yeah.
Jose Portilla right there. It's-
Opportunity, right? There's an opportunity for sure. I mean, I think there's been over like nearly 2 million students who have taken that course. And yeah, it's that ability as well to engage with the learners, engage with the instructors. We've got some great stories of instructors who have come from an academic background, and they're like, hey, when I was teaching in academia, I could get to maybe, a couple of thousand students. Here I can get to millions. And that's cool.
yeah,
Just the thought of that. I mean, if you're someone who loves to share, who loves to help people learn, then Udemy just provides that awesome community and marketplace to be able to do that. Um, and we see organizations taking it on, right? Our Udemy business side of the house, organizations embracing that micro learning, different types of learning, being able to do async learning as well. No one's got time, right? You can just, hey, download a course, put it on the mobile app, and listen to it on your walk into the office or your walk around the block, for your mental break during the day.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the B2B side, because
Mhm.
I've always known Udemy as, the B2C. I didn't even actually realize that there was a B2B side.
Yep.
But what types of companies are you seeing, you know, as sort of the main adopters, and how are they using it?
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, as you'll see if you go to udemy.com, right, we've got over 14,000, it's probably actually higher now, companies, around the world who are using Udemy Business. And basically what we do with Udemy Business is we take the course catalog that we have on the marketplace, and we curate that to a subset. Which we make available to our Udemy Business customers. Now, at any point in time, if a customer for Udemy Business wants a course that's not in the curated catalog, they can come, they can request it, it can be added, not a problem. But the reason we do that is because we have so much content, it can often be overwhelming. And so
Hmm.
what we do is we curate it down. We also support it in multiple languages as well. And not like, this is not subtitling, this is not dubbing, this is native instructors in native language teaching native courses. Right? That
Interesting.
for international companies, and you see some of the logos on the website, right? AT&T, Cisco, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Citi, Ericsson. For international companies, that really makes a difference,
Hmm.
because there are nuances in, when you just translate something, you get like value. But when it's a native instructor, speaking in the native language, providing, our international collection, as we call it, that again just really makes a difference. And so, yeah, it's companies who are doing everything from small teams, right? Maybe they're just deploying Udemy with 10, 20 people.
Hmm.
It's a particular part of the business, through to companies who've got, thousands of users on the platform, and they're using everything from the learning content through to our ability to do badging and certifications as well, and create things like
Interesting.
custom learning paths. We use it ourselves, right, as part of our onboarding. So when anyone gets onboarded into Udemy, they've got different learning paths, and we've got learning paths to learn about the company, learning paths about belonging, equity, diversity, and inclusion, learning paths that are specific to functions, right, for our engineers versus our marketeers versus sales. So yeah, it's pretty broad in its application, and pretty cool what we can help do. All goes back to that notion of improving and transforming lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've read in the news that some large percentage of the workforce will have to be upskilled or reskilled in with this big AI transformation that we're going through. So that's
Huge.
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, to me, I'm a digital native, so it seems like pretty straightforward. But for folks that, are not necessarily like there's a pretty substantial learning curve. So the
Oh
ability
yeah.
for a company to just like call Udemy up and spin me up a nice little LMS and let me, upskill and cross train my team, like that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's a massive challenge. I mean, I think it was Deloitte did a study. They said something like 89% of executives say that skills are becoming important for the way that organizations are defining work and deploying talent. But at the same time, probably equal number of executives are not really sure what to do. And take something like generative AI. It's great. I mean, what OpenAI did and ChatGPT did for that technology is just so awesome because in an instant, I think people felt closer to generative AI and felt like they could understand it. But we definitely see, customers and prospects challenged, right? Because they're like, okay, well, I need generalist understanding of generative AI, but then I need it specific to the marketing function or the engineering function. And they want to know, well, what's the skill? What's the sub skill? What's the learning outcome? And that's all part of what we help our customers to be able to do. So it's not just providing them the content and providing them the ability to learn, it's helping guide them in, where are your skills gaps? What are the skills you need to be learning most? What's trending? What's becoming important that you should be thinking about? So it's all those different elements, and that's a lot of what our customer success team, do on a daily basis. They work with customers, especially when it comes to things like generative AI, to figure out, well, where do I start? What do I do?
Yeah, yeah. So this is a micro question. Forgive me if I'm getting a little too
Oh, go
granular,
for it.
but so if I'm a business and I sign up,
Hmm.
um, I get like, I guess I get an admin view where I can, create those different learning paths, enroll people in the different learning paths, and then
Hmm.
kind of monitor their progress over
Yep.
time.
Exactly. So yeah, so you got the, as I mentioned, we've got about 127,000 courses in English, about 90,000 local language courses, and then we take a subset of that to create probably about 10,000 courses in English and about 30,000 in local language for the Udemy Business Catalog or collection, if you will. Um, and then yeah, as a leader, a learning leader, you can see who's learning, what's their usage, right? So how many hours of learning is getting done in your organization? Are people taking the learning paths that you want them to take? What other things are of interest? So you get all of those insights as well, so that you can actually make decisions about where to invest, where your employees need help. And at the end of the day, I think that's one of the other big topics that there's a lot of research about, is people want to know when they're with a company that they have a career path, that there is opportunity for growth, and skills and learning are the perfect way to be able to do that and to give back to your employees.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. And it strikes close to home because we've always been sort of a learning and training org. Because in
Hmm.
our business, like we're digital marketers, we do like paid search, paid social, analytics, conversion, things like that. It's not it's not like an engineering firm where you can just go and hire people out of school and they're like ready to contribute.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like, even if you hire the brightest out of a great school, they sometimes, have very little actual practical experience. So
Hmm.
like we have this sort of boot camp training that we put together for the first 3 months that people go through, but learning and teaching also is really ingrained into our culture here. So that
Yeah.
definitely definitely
And you touched on
resonates
it,
with me.
the practicality, right? So not only do we have the course content, but you can create workspaces, you can create labs, you can create, with our UPro offering on the business side of the house, you can create sample tests and assessments and certifications. So there's a whole slew of different things. And then, for some customers as well, leadership, right? Technical skills, that's one thing. We've got a ton of customers that use us for technical and business skills, but also leadership as well. So we've got a cohort-based learning platform, our UBLA, so our leadership academy. And that's all about cohort-based learning. So just like you were saying, when people come in, you could have whatever it might be, 10 people join your cohort, your boot camp. They get a 6 to 12 week intensive program together. And then afterwards, they're able to sort of build that community. And especially in hybrid work, I think that becomes even more important because, when you used to go into an office or a common workspace, you could easily ask questions and you can, grab people and sort of figure out what you need. Sometimes that becomes a little bit harder in the remote world. We're all used to Zoom, we're all used to working remotely. But I think, especially when you're trying to, say, for example, take a group of individual contributors and making them managers, that's a
Yeah,
transition which is super hard, it's super overlooked. And, just because someone is a great individual contributor, it doesn't mean that they have the skills to be a great manager.
oh,
And
yeah,
it's your job as an organization and your job as a leader to help them do that.
absolutely, absolutely. Another thing that just came to mind, we've had people go back for their MBA, like actual, go
Mhm.
to a university for their MBA. And we've considered like either sponsoring that or, paying for some portions of it. We never actually did, but I bet with Udemy, you could probably create your own like MBA in a box
Yeah.
for a fraction of the cost, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. With our leadership academy, right? You've got guided learning, you get communities of practice, you get moderators and instructors, right, who have different backgrounds and different, qualifications and are teaching you different things, and you get that applied learning experience as well, right?
That's
So I think
awesome.
it's there's just so much opportunity, and go back to why Udemy, why did I come here? Because it's so great that we can provide this for individuals and organizations and give people access to it in so many languages in so many different countries. And whether you're big or small, we can we can tailor the Udemy solution to be able to meet your needs, and that's pretty cool. um
That's really
you know
cool.
often especially when you're in B2B marketing, you're in cyber or you're in app dev or DevOps or, whatever it might be. Um, I truly feel so fortunate because we can cover so many different things and we can appeal to so many different people. Sometimes it's a bit of a marketer's worst nightmare, I'm not going to lie, because, nailing down your ICP, a little bit hard.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it's just a wealth of opportunity that we can share out there with the world.
absolutely. Well, you guys are doing an amazing job with it. It's an awesome mission, awesome company. The website is great. It's super easy to navigate.
That's what we
Uh,
like. Make it easy to get to the skills you need.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure it's not all wine and roses, totally though. What are some of the big challenges that you're facing or what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, so I think, given sort of where I am and being, new to this role, you know, I think just keeping the morale high, right? Giving people a reason to be inspired. Um, when a new leader comes in, it's always a challenge. On one hand, you're sort of like, oh, excited to learn. What's this person going to do? Now, on the
Yeah,
other hand, it's like, oh man, it's another change. And are they going to change things that I like? Are they going to ask me to do things that are different to what I do right now? And that might make me uncomfortable. So I think for me, you don't achieve anything, I think, as an individual. I mean, yeah, you can do things, but when you work as a team, that's like so awesome. I mean, to have a win by yourself is great, but when you win as a team, sounds cheesy, but I don't know. I love it, right? That when you can turn to someone and be like, wow, we did this, right? We
yeah,
we created this together. that's just pretty special. And so for me, that's top of mind for me right now, right? How do I keep my team inspired? How do I manage through the change? And how do I, keep them inspired for that vision of what's to come? And, obviously when you come in as a new leader, sometimes people will raise to you things that, oh, this isn't working or that isn't working, as well as all of the good stuff.
Yeah.
And you want to make the change immediately, and sometimes you can't. And so sort of finding that balance and, giving people that vision, that hope, and that, creating that environment where people can be successful, they can feel heard, but also making sure that you're making the changes that are needed, continuing to do what you know has been successful, and then change some of the areas where maybe you need to amplify or accelerate or change direction.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What are the top channels or go-to-market motions like
Mhm.
that are really driving a lot of revenue for you guys right now?
Yeah, so I think definitely you said it right. Generative AI, there's a huge opportunity around generative AI. Leadership learning is another one. Just the transformation in of itself to a skills-based organization. We've got some customers actually who are basically they're not building out traditional job descriptions. They're actually building out like skill pots, right? What are the skills that I need to complete this project? So it's less about the function. It's less that I need a marketing person, a project management person. It's more what are the specific skills that I need to achieve the outcome for this particular project, and building these little pods that can actually help do that. And we've done that a lot, in our product development and engineering org. And even in
Mhm.
marketing as well, building out those pods to sort of say, well, yeah, your day job, for example, is performance marketing, but right now you're going to be on a pod which is focused around brand, as an example, or
Mhm.
pricing as an example. So I think that's definitely a key opportunity. So leadership skills, generative AI, micro learning, and then the overall transformation to a skills-based economy. Those are the sort of four key drivers that we see a lot in the opportunities that we have out there.
I see, I see. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I was more so asking about like channels in terms of like, is it mostly search or social
Yeah.
or a lot of like email and outbound?
Yeah, there's a mix for sure. I mean, I think on the D2C side of the house, performance marketing still really important, right? Paid ads, paid social, those types of things. I think
Hmm.
on the B2B side, it's definitely ABM, right? Scaling ABM. That's one of the key future initiatives. How do we scale ABM and combine that with some fun brand and social activations? I'm a big
Hmm.
believer in social. I think we've got a huge opportunity at Udemy to build up our organic social, and it's a great way to engage. And then the other thing as well is I would say community, right? We've got a great community of instructors. We need to build out that same community for our learners and our admins as well. Because
Hmm.
again, that's where you get, real-time feedback on your messaging, real-time feedback on even like what types of advertising potentially that your customers and prospects want to see you doing, where you
Yeah.
should show up, right? So picking, content syndication, what channels maybe you should be looking at as well. So
Hmm.
yeah, so I think performance marketing still huge, still a massive channel. We see great ROI on the D2C side of the house, and then on the B2B side of the house, definitely ABM, and actually events, in-person events are picking back up, and
Mm.
we're starting to get good traction in terms of attendance of people just sort of wanting to come and connect, yeah, human to human.
Awesome. That's really, so you guys are putting on your own events?
We do. So in October, we've got what we call Forward, which is all about skills, work, and innovation. So it'll happen in October. It will happen virtually, and then we will have a sequence of events in India, Sao Paulo for our LATAM region, and then in London on November 2nd for our EMEA region. And those three will be in person. So we're going to do
Wow.
a hybrid approach, but it's going to be pretty exciting to be able to be out there with customers.
Wow. So you guys are truly global, like
Yep, yep,
boots on
for
the
sure.
ground.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure, definitely. I mean, our India event gets a great amount of customers and prospects that come to that. They come to engage, they come to learn, they come to network, peer-to-peer networking, and then our EMEA event is always really, really successful. North America, I think it's much more about smaller meetups as well. And that's why we do the virtual event, which covers North America and then can cover the globe as well. And then we go on our roadshow in LATAM, APAC, and EMEA.
That's awesome. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I loved your secret about operating without fear. I think that is an important message that, everybody needs to hear, marketers, salespeople, even executive leaders. It's one of those things that nobody really likes to talk about, because it's vulnerable. It's like, you might think it's a sign of weakness, but everybody feels it. And I think you provided us with some strong techniques today that we, can do that operating without fear. So I'm motivated. I'm inspired. I'm going to go play my highlight reel in my mind. And thank you for your time here today.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I think everyone should write down their narrative and get their highlight reel running.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what you do with Udemy. I'll be a fan. I'll be a customer. We might even be a B2B customer. I'm already a D2C customer.
Awesome. Yeah, bring it on. Bring it on. We would love to support you in that journey.
Yeah. We've looked at a couple different platforms. We looked at LinkedIn Learning and a couple different things, but I don't think we're married to any quite yet. So you might be.
The variety we have, that's the benefit of not having a publisher model is we get instructors from all different places, all different types of learning so that you can really make it personal.
Yep. So watch out. Web mechanics might be entering a pipeline near you.
Love it.
And let's do the lightning round.
Go for it.
All right. Question number 1. If you were to start a side hustle, what side hustle would that be?
Complete and sell my family cookbook and open a food truck with all of the things that are in it.
Love it. Love it. That's a good one. Number 2 is top 3 books, authors, influencers, podcasts, whatever you want, that have made an impact in your career.
Top 3. Oh, that's a tough one. And especially it's like books and podcasts as well. Podcasts, I really love Chris Lockhead. He does some great stuff with Category Pirates. But I would say top 3 books, The Medici Effect, Franz Johansson. That's just great for diversity of thought and creative thinking. Building the Story Brand by Donald Miller and Amp It Up by Frank Slootman.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not actually familiar with either of those, but I'll check them out.
There you go. Yeah. Medici Effect, Building the Story Brand, and Amp It Up. Those are 3 good ones.
Nice. All right. And finally, how do you avoid burnout and how do you help your team to avoid burnout?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm always that good at it, but I think for my team, it's about consistently reminding and reassuring that taking a break when you need it is a must. So I think you've got to be really in tune to your team and pay attention. That's a key thing. And then for me, I think it's about being intentional with my time, right? And being okay with the fact that I love my job. I love what I do. So if I have to work late, a couple of nights to get something done or whatever it might be, then I'll do it. I love it. I enjoy that. But then at the same time, I love my family. I love my personal space and time. So, when I need to, taking the time to be with my family, go on a hike, do a movie, put my phone aside, cook dinner. I think, just building out those rituals and being intentional with your time can be really, really empowering.
Love that. Love that. Well, thank you so much, Genefa. This has been really, really fun. For everybody listening, if you learned anything here today or if you laughed a little bit, drop us a 5-star rating wherever you get your pods or share this with a friend. We really would appreciate that. Genefa, if people want to learn more about you or Udemy, where would you direct them?
I say, me, you can learn about me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Twitter at Genefa Murphy. Udemy, just go to udemy.com, right? See if there's a course that can help awaken a new passion for you or your team, right? Whether it's ChatGPT or cheese making, we can help you develop whatever skill is going to mean the most to you. So go check it out on udemy.com. Go and see what awakes your passion.
Love it. That's simple enough. Cool. Well, Genefa, stay on the line for just a moment. But for everybody else, that was another exciting episode of Revenue Driven CMO. We will see you next time. And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us here today. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at revenuedrivencmo.com. That's revenuedrivencmo.com. And hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours. Even if you're already a client, if you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. And that's just because you're a listener of this podcast. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenuedrivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenuedrivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.